This is the CZDAO Regenpreneur think tank, where we come together as entrepreneurs and we work through the challenges as peers within the regenerative movement and permaculture movement. And we're all working on really cool, interesting things. We might be at different levels and different stages. So yeah, this is the place for that. To share, to start off, we're going to do a little popcorn roundabout to share what's exciting in our business, or something exciting that we're looking forward to in our business, to start us off. And I'll get us going here. So I have been running Seeds of Dow as a sole proprietor, and haven't really created an entity for it. So the exciting things is now we are creating an entity. We are bringing on a partner, and that's really what triggered our building an entity. I usually just do a sole proprietorship until I either make too much money for tax reasons, or I get involved in a partnership. And so this entity is now going to become an LLC this week. And we're going to be using Slicing Pie, if anybody has heard of Slicing Pie, to actually split equity. And so it's a really interesting model. If you're curious, we can chat about it. That actually is a little bit more fair and equitable when creating and partnerships with people, because it's based on the work that you put in, the sweat equity that you put in your business, and not necessarily what you decide to split from the beginning of the business, right? And so we can chat more about that. But that's something I'm excited about. It's also come with its different challenges. Trying to explain a more novel model of sharing equity to a business partner has been a little challenging, and to get headway on that is often difficult. So that's been a challenge. So I'm going to popcorn it over to PJ, actually. If you could share something that's going on in your business that you're excited about.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that Slicing Pie model, and hearing more about it, because I've got a few things going that could probably use that model. As you have more of us which I'll share one of them. So I basically have three almost interlocking or networked type of ventures that are all emerging at the same time. And some of us are full-time on, one of them, and some of us are part-time on the other, and some are part-time on the other, and, more full-time on the other one. So that'd be and then we have people from the outside, that are not involved in any of them except for like one of them. So that would be a really interesting model to look at. But for one of the ventures that I'm working on, very exciting that we just hired legal counsel to get us incorporated as a public benefit company, and are making headway to bring that together so we can start. We have investment more or less secured for it through one of the partners. And so he wants to start paying us basically, and is like, we need to incorporate and get this stuff together so that we can pay it through the company. So that was an exciting development for this week.
Right on. Yeah, getting paid. So PJ, I shared the link to the Slicing Pie book. I would recommend it's a quick read, but it's a new concept, right? So it can take some time to digest. If you want to take a look at that link that I put into the chat.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then PJ, just popcorn it over to someone in the group to share.
Yeah.
What's exciting for them.
Let's do Tommy.
Awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Tommy. For me, what's exciting is being in the early phase of a solar install company or business. Trying to figure out where we're going to fit in at, with trying to find leads and, and subcontracts, stuff like that. But right now it's, we get to be a part of a possibility of an intentional farm community, multiple farms that we'll be able to install that want to go off grid, and be disconnected, and then got some churches that are getting involved, and I've been waiting for that, that want to go, install solar on their churches to be an example of clean energy. And then the third thing that was exciting I wanted to share was just one more thing, but not really picking it up. But yeah, basically that's what's going on for me. It's pretty exciting, and can be really create a lot of turmoil for me. Things are rapidly changing in the solar part. It's pretty challenging. But yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Tommy. Do you want to just share who you would like to go next? We got Ray,
Yeah,
Corey, and Carrie.
I'll go with Ray.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, something exciting. Oh God, there's so many things happening in my world at the moment. I am an addicted regenpreneur, so I'm bouncing around a few different projects at the moment. But podcast is doing really well. That's one of the guests that was released last week shared it, and it got lots of views. So I was really happy about that. And I'm also dabbling in the NFT space and trying to put a drop together that will help the solar health industry. So that's pretty much as I can share at the moment. So that's pretty fun. I've bumped into a friend here in Melbourne who we're both just as addicted to the NFT space and crypto, and just seeing a lot of the media and attention going on in that space is really interesting. And we're also releasing our kids' school holiday program this weekend. So that'll be really cool. Just put in some education thoughts around getting kids outdoors and playing with fermenting and activities and doing, out in the garden finds, especially here in Melbourne and Australia, where we're in a very harsh-ish lockdown. I think it'll be really cool to just get parents who are homeschooling and school holidays start as of today, because we're Friday already. So this weekend is the start of a 2-week school holiday. So we wanted to give everyone something to do every day for 14 days. So pretty excited about that. So I'll popcorn over to Corey.
Exciting for me this week is the guy building the house delivered about half of the metal work. It's going to create the front gate, the garage door at the front door, and he installed most of it. And the reason that this is so exciting is because for a long time, my wife and I have been scared that he was never going to deliver it. We were going to have to order it. Oh, and we've already paid for it. And so we thought maybe we were going to lose the money. And so the fact that he delivered this week kind of put our mind at ease. Makes us think he's going to deliver the rest too. So
that's good.
Yeah.
For those of you who are new and haven't hopped on consistently, as Corey's been here as well, Corey is building a retreat in Colombia that is designed permaculture. The land is designed permaculture with permaculture principles and ethics. And yeah, so he's going to be having that eco retreat there. And he's been doing a lot of guerrilla gardening as well, as he's been waiting for that, and some other business models that we might get into as well. But yeah, Corey, just wanted to mention those. Yeah, popcorn it over to someone.
Go to Carrie.
All right, so this week, I'm not sure if I actually had my blog up last week. I think I did. So I got my blog up and I've got several posts up, and my dogs all have been in the operating room since this all happened. So this week has been just kind of like dealing with their recovery and all that stuff. And I'm getting through with all of their recovery, and I'm very happy about that. Everything's going pretty well. And now I have a lot more stories to put on my blog. And I've really kind of honed in on what my niche is and how I help people in terms of, healing with their animals and I got a lot of clarity on another networking call today about that, and that was pretty awesome. So that's what I'm excited about.
Awesome. Good to hear. Clarity is a good thing.
Yes.
Carrie, I think Michelle, you are the last one. So go ahead.
Oh, hi, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. This is my big week in September. I actually piloted a regenerative leadership workshop at the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies meeting this week, and ended up getting a wait list, so we offered it twice. And it was amazing. We had people say things that they normally don't say in these, which I felt really awesome about, because we were able to create really safe, brave spaces for people. And then I did a half-day wellness for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and tomorrow we're piloting a half-day workshop on eco-grief and resilience. So it's been a really heavy week, but also really exciting.
Right on. That's cool that you're doing an eco grief workshop.
Well, it's cool, but also going to be pretty draining. Yeah.
I'm sure. You got to give us an update on how it goes. Cool. So that is everybody. All exciting things, right? Just to keep us in that moment for a sec. We're all working on really great, exciting regenerative ventures and projects. Now we're going to dive into the challenge side of the think tank, where we share with one another the challenges that we're working through in our businesses, and we think tank and mastermind them to solve them and create solutions for them. So this is the open space to do that. It takes a little bit of vulnerability to do that. So I'm going to leave that to the group right now. This is a very safe space, and we're wonderful people that are open and willing to help with our challenges. So go ahead if you have something. Just raise your hand or unmic.
I can go first. Nobody wants to go. Somebody raised their hand already.
Okay, go ahead, Tommy.
Okay. I couldn't see everybody. I wasn't sure. Challenge. Getting a city to desire solar that doesn't really have much solar installed yet. So far, would that be a challenge?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I was making sure I was conveying it. So like so far I've tried. I can tell you what I've tried. You know what I mean? Flyers. You know, flyers to the doors, business cards, bulletin boards at more progressive businesses like local farmers market, and coffee shops and CBD shops, like somewhere, things that are more progressive, not so conservative, where the audience might be, to find them, and then going to homes. I got magnets on my vehicles, like little big, logo decal things on the vehicle, so people could see. People, get admired by it, but nobody's taken action to really install solar or to benefit from it, so the challenge is trying to get this city, the work's outside of this city so far, but I want to get this is my hometown. I want to be like these, the person making change here for the solar, independence for people. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody have any initial thoughts? This is a sales and marketing conversation now as we go into this question. Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, I did have some initial thoughts. A lot of sales and marketing is going to be research, in my experience and from everything that I'm told. So I'm just wondering, what kind of research that you have done into the areas of what people are wanting and what is your specific benefit that you can offer them as opposed to anyone else. Just basically kind of, how many people actually have the solar in your city versus other cities, just that kind of thing. I'm just wondering what the research is saying about those things.
Man. For me, for this area, I don't really have any solar. As far as, I don't know what exactly they want, if they don't want solar. And then you had another question. You said, what do I benefit them? Basically, my way to get people to even pay attention is saying that I can offer them the lowest cost. That we're not here to, have large profit margins. We're here to actually make it affordable for everybody and actually give them savings, even before they apply a tax credit. We're giving them the savings, and then plus a tax credit. If they get that, that incentive, then they get a bigger savings. But we're trying to make it to where it's, where it's convenient for everybody, and we're still making money because you don't need a huge, crazy profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing. But as far as wanting it, I'm trying to figure out who wants it in this city. I'm trying to figure out how to find that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? What have you tried?
I mean, I gave my thoughts on what I tried. I'm just trying to figure out what else I should do more strategically.
I see. Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
What community are you in? I missed that.
Oh, I'm in Kokomo. I'm in Indiana, Kokomo, Indiana.
Okay. So how urban / rural?
It's a small town. It's not really like a big city urban. It's just only like probably 55,000 people.
Okay.
But it's pretty densely populated for its area. Though, with those 55,000 people.
Do people ask about? I know a question that I have had, and I live in a rural area. Is it sounds great and everything, but like 10 years from now, what how do I deal with replacement, disposal, like all the other long term? How does it play out? I think that's the question a lot of people have around here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's simple. That's just warranty. I mean, that's what you're talking about for like any replacements or any maintenance or anything like that. That's covered by warranty.
Forever?
No, for up to 25 years. Typically for us, it's 30 years. I mean, that's what you get. And then I think you have to probably reapply for a warranty, extended warranty, probably longer than that. But
okay.
But other than that, I mean.
So I'm just going off of what I've seen, what I've liked about solar companies that have tried to pitch me, and what I haven't liked about being pitched by different solar companies.
Yeah.
One company here, and this is actually so we're in Utah, Salt Lake City, very urban and suburban sprawl, right? And it's a huge urban suburban sprawl as far as like the valley is really big from distance from there's like 7 or 8 cities that kind of make up the area. And so maybe that gives you context, but there are, I would say we probably during the summer get at least once a week a solar guy coming in knocking on the door, right? And so it's kind of interesting to see the different pitches that you get. And it's the things that I've enjoyed. Well, the things I don't enjoy is everybody coming to the door, right? And just so many people, one after another. That's frustrating, right? So if everybody else is actually getting the same stuff you going door to door, putting out flyers and those types of things, you don't necessarily stand out. It's really, really hard to stand out. So I think what Carrie was saying as far as finding out what your unique thing is that really helps you stand out from others might be really beneficial, right? How are you servicing? How are you bringing people forward? If you're the low cost leader, that's kind of hard for me to believe that is your distinguishing character, because low cost leader means, I mean, the only person that I feel like that could provide a low cost leading product would either be so wouldn't be a reliable product for me in the solar region, or they would be so big that they can undercut everybody else. And I'm not sure you're one or the other, right? And if you're a smaller company and you're saying you're the low cost leader, it makes me believe that you're like discount, and that's scary for me if I'm going to pay for a 25 year investment in a solar company. So finding out what that is, I'll tell you a couple of the ones that I've enjoyed, and maybe it'll just spark some ideas on the marketing and sales side. I really enjoy, and there's a lot of people actually doing this now, but maybe it's something that will help you to know what really attractive solar companies are doing. You could put a huge solar array on this house that I'm currently in. I'm actually in between transit, moving to Panama here in the next little bit. So I'm at my parents' house. I have a pretty decent sized house in suburbia, and every solar company that comes and pitches my parents is pitching a huge solar array. Like, you can put this whole thing up. It's going to be really expensive, but it's going to give you're going to get discounted for whatever incentives and those types of things. But what they don't come in is they say, I'm going to do a complete evaluation on your home, and I'm going to see how you can improve your home efficiencies to the point where you only need this tiny solar array, right? And I've had a couple people come and pitch, and my parents, and then my parents will come to me because they think I'm the green know-it-all, right? And they'll say, oh, is this is a good thing, or is this a bad thing? Is this a good price? And when someone came to me and they said that they had done this, I'm like, this is a really good company. And I actually found out who that company was. It's actually someone that's was in this community that I actually knew. And that was their big thing, is like, you're getting ripped off by all these different solar companies that are trying to just raise the cost of your solar install because they just want money, right? When actually, if you were to make your house more efficient, it's the first thing you need to do. Then do that. That's showing integrity, and that's what set them apart from anybody else, right? So that was something that I really enjoyed. Another thing on the marketing side that I really enjoyed is I actually got called to do this little community. I'm not even sure what they called it, but it was, they gathered a bunch of business owners and people that are in the green space and wanting to make solar a big thing, wanting to make green energy a big thing, right? And so they got people that were excited, and they started having these rallies and I guess you could call them rallies, but just started getting these people together, the community together, and they started having conversations on how can we be more energy reliant? How can we create more sustainable energy in our community? And then you had solar companies doing this, right? And you had a wind company a part of it as well, right? And so they came together to try and do this, and they were going for the corporate side of things. They were going for businesses and bigger accounts, but they also had some residential stuff to it as well. And their whole idea is like, if we get the community involved and we get the people that are really passionate about it, they spread the word on how we can do that. They spread the word on the companies that are doing it the right way, right? And so those were the two things that I saw in the market that were really good. But
Yeah,
there's lots of other ways. I think you really got to find your own way that sets you, that it creates a unique place for you, right?
yeah.
And it might
I
be
like those two ideas.
no one's doing that in your local area. Maybe
really,
it's unique
no.
to your local area, right?
I mean, not too many people. I was working as a consultant before this, and I had a bigger company come in only because of me. I mean, I was the one that was here, the local consultant, And then they came in and installed one, and I was at my mother's home. Other than that, nope, nothing really. It's mainly out in a bigger city, like down south to Indianapolis area, or more of a rich area they call Carmel Fishers area. But yeah, not small town Kokomo.
Well, hopefully those help.
No,
Have
that's a
any
good
other-
idea. No, that's I already understand. Those are definitely good ideas to stir up, passion and community. Put community around the sustainable thing. And I just got connected to yesterday in a parking lot, a church. One of the church's members came up to me, and it happened to be the church that hosts the Hoosier Power and Faith. Hoosier Power and Faith deals with activism and renewable energy and stuff. And so I got invited to that meeting. So that's a good community type organization type matter happening in this area that I had forgot about. Now I'm going to get plugged back into to see get myself a part of that influence. So that's a good
finding some partners to maybe involve yourself in the community as a group, so you don't necessarily look like you are an independent salesperson, but you're bringing a kind of
community movement. Yeah, I like that one. I'm used to that too. I'm used to that kind of stuff too anyway, building movements like that.
Cool.
So that'd be a good idea.
Anybody else have something to share? Or
I got an idea.
Cool, let's hear it.
Yes, Michelle.
I think of this from like my perspective is, I study banking a lot in the economy, and I have become convinced that, hyperinflation is just around the corner. And I feel like the more lifetime supplies of things that I can acquire, the better off I am. And I feel like a solar panel gives me maybe not a lifetime supply of electricity, but like you said in your warranty, 30 years, maybe it gives me 30 years worth. And every time I've ever seen a rundown of the cost benefits of getting a solar panel, I never see them take into account inflation. They always say, oh, your electric bill is this for X amount of years. It'll take you 10 years and your solar panel will pay for itself. And they never say, unless hyperinflation hits, in which case it'll pay for itself in 2 hours. Nobody thinks about from that point of view, but I'm thinking about it from that point of view. So maybe there's people out there who are, and if you can connect with them, I don't know.
The preppers.
I'll have to figure out how to make
Yes.
that make sense to me too, though. I'm not used to understanding that stuff either.
Well, Tommy, how about if you do any kind of get-togethers or anything, is there any way that you could put together some kind of questionnaire or poll or about what people are looking for in a solar panel, or what are their concerns, or what would the benefits be to them that they would most appreciate? Or because then that way you'll know what your people are looking for and what to say.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I need to do more surveys and get it out there and
more
get
research better.
get a part of more events, locally and groups, and then youth groups. Michelle mentioned youth groups. So yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One thing
DJ.
I'll mention, just because I know I am working with one of our clients actually for our social impact and sustainability consulting firm is in Indianapolis. And so I've done some research into the city of Indianapolis and their plans for sustainability related stuff. And they have that Thrive Indianapolis plan, or Thrive Indy, which I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
But there's some pretty monumental ordinances that have gone into place in terms of buildings. They have recently, they passed an ordinance basically that is going to require transparency of energy usage for buildings. And in the next 5 years, any building, I believe over 25,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet, I can't remember which one, any building in the city of Indianapolis is going to need to report on that stuff. And so the city of Indianapolis might be, and the surrounding area might actually be a much more fruitful target for you and demand for you. Even though there are other solar companies there, it still might be, the demand might outpace what you have in Kokomo, because I'm from the Midwest and I know how outside of cities in the Midwest, I'm from Wisconsin in particular, it's a very conservative area.
Yeah.
And anybody talking about anything related to anything, you know, renewable or whatever, it's like, I don't care. So it just might be better fishing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, Indy's a hotspot. No, I mean, Indy is a hotspot. There's just so many big companies there. So many, you know what I mean, people, there's billionaire companies over there, you know what I mean? I'm just this small company, but I mean, I could definitely, I just because I'm not a big company, people always did, like you were mentioning it, Josh, that, you know, how could I lower cost? Well, I mean, I just ethically offer a lower cost. You know what I mean? I just choose to offer the lower cost and beat the next guy who's charging 10 grand more. You know what I mean? And I mean, we're still getting paid well. You know what I mean? So I think that they're really just charging really high, really outrageously high, margins that are unnecessary. I mean, if I'm able to lower the cost being a small guy, you know what I mean? So that's how we feel. Me and my partner, he's been in renewable energy for 15 years as a general contractor, and we just feel like we just underbid people, just undercut people and give the customer, the homeowner, what they want to save money, and we win and build a reputation that way. So, but Indy would be definitely, I agree. We've been trying to get some contracts out there in Indy actually, just to get our foot in the door, in Indy and everything, and start moving that way. And it's just always dealing with someone wanting to pay you less than what you're, what you feel your value is. They want to. Everybody wants, more money for themselves, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, you got to make this fair for both ways, buddy. You know what I mean? If you want us to really help you out as a subcontract install team, So that's what I've been dealing with, as far as getting into Indy. I mean, we could go there ourselves, but I mean, my buddy was feeling like, it would be easier if we went as subcontractors first, just to get our, name out there.
I think there's something to say with PJ though, even with it's the way that you approach people in that space as well. There's I had a friend that was a consultant for the contracting world, right? And getting contracts for businesses, for roofing, for all sorts of different, windows and all these different pieces of building, right? And he would go into a business, say it was a windows business or it was a roofing business, and he would figure out the kind of hot like he worked a certain portion that what was it, insurance for roofing. You gave this example for roofing, like finding roofing jobs that were completely under homeowners or completely under a certain type of challenge, or maybe it was under a storm that just came through, or he was finding these weird laterals that weren't necessarily marketing or sells things, but he was basically seeing how can this person pay for what they need, like get a brand new roof just because they're in an area that has a certain ordinance or those things. And so there might be, if that's something that tickles your fancy, of like going in and like looking for a way to like wormhole and make it easy for the sell without having to do all the marketing work behind it. And I don't know that there's a lot of those in the
for solar just yet.
For solar, but PJ was kind of mentioning that if everybody has to start reporting or everybody has to, figure out those pieces and no one is actually selling on that premises, or they don't have the list of everybody that has to report, but you do, then you kind of go after it, right? It kind of works that way in real estate as well. Like, for example, like there's different tactics for finding real estate investment properties or flipping real estate. And if you're trying to find certain homes in a certain way, and you are the very best at finding these types of homes, like for example, like if you're the very best at finding homes that, when there's a death, it goes to probate. So probate homes, right? And you're the very best for your location for finding probate homes, then you always get the market for probate, right? And how is there a niche that you can understand so well that no one else really understands, that you can go in and you can pitch those people and sell them every single time, right?
I feel like my niche really would be, even going religious wise. I always think about that at the beginning, when I was a consultant, is just going towards like the just the religious groups, you know what I mean? And I can connect with them as far as rapport and everything, because I'm highly, in that area of education and practice, maybe that might be something, where I can relate to him better, and they might feel like, yeah, this is our guy we want to trust, and he's wanting to do it for service of God and for humanity. And that's what it is really about for me, though, honestly. So, that could be a good way, to gain leverage.
Especially in a very conservative religious area, right?
Right. Yeah. use that angle on them, but I'm just trying to get clean energy. And that's my main thing.
Okay. Well, do you feel complete there, Tommy?
Oh yeah, that's plenty of advice.
Awesome.
Well, I went to second or third or fourth the whole the Christianity in the Midwest. Absolutely, that's the way to go.
Thank you. Definitely.
Yeah, I think if you can speak to them on a level that no one else can, you'll definitely be able to close that sale a lot easier than someone else, and find the sales that other people are unable to close and get to, right?
Tommy, that's literally how we in Indianapolis, is because we spoke, the Christianese basically, of them. So I think you're on the right track there.
Right. Well, no, Who's Your Empowering Faith might open a big door for me. And I just got called in for being a part of the meetings for Sierra Club in the area too, with petitioning Duke, to take more action in what they're taking, the utility here in the area. So I might be my door's opening, for what needs to happen for me. Freaking, it ain't fun though. Being all under the pressures and trying to figure out how to make things happen.
So I haven't been able to add much to this, and here in Australia, the whole religion thing would not fly at all. But I just thought of a bit of a marketing spin on the fact that, like, let God shine light to your soul, and we will, catch the light off your sun and turn into power, or something like that. But I thought you could play on the whole light on solar panels and light in God and religion and so forth. So you can play around with that.
The marketing slogan type stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
So we have time for a good challenge that we can workshop here. Another one. Does anybody want to raise a hand on mic and share?
I don't have anything, but I'm curious to what PJ does. I'm just not sure. I've met everyone else except for PJ.
Yeah, good question. And I probably have some challenges I could throw out to the group here. Yeah, so I am right now, specifically with the entrepreneurial thing, I'm involved in 3 different ventures. One is a social impact and sustainability consulting firm for small and medium-sized enterprises. Right now, our challenge with that one is we went through a proof of concept more or less and sort of started getting, we got like 3 clients right off the bat, have booked just under 100,000 in revenue. And there's 4 partners of us. So that it's not sustainable for that alone yet to be like a full-time income. But right now we're going through a retooling phase of really honing in on who we are and what we do and like who our target market is. So like the challenge that we're facing there is like, how do we really just like nail and dial in on who we are and what we're doing, which, you know, is a process that we've been going through, just doing the customer segmentation, some, you know, market research, feedback, all that stuff. The second thing I'm working on is a community investment fund of funds, a fund that invests in other community investment funds. And that one actually split off into, it spun off this other opportunity, which the fund of funds and this investment advisory and due diligence service for community investing is actually is closer to the money. There's more of a demand there right now for due diligence type service, as well as some consulting type stuff to not only help institutions that have impact investment dollars set aside, but are, you know, choosing to invest in ESG funds or in the market, you know, in Wall Street basically. But how do you help them start community funds with that money? So that's part of the service. Other part of the service would be just due diligence on investment opportunities, community investment opportunities, and, you know, using impact measurement metrics and stuff like that with that. And yeah, so those 3 are like the, I guess, entrepreneurial ventures that I'm more or less working on. I'm also connecting, I connected with Josh through, actually, I had heard about Josh and Seeds of Doubt actually through this network that I'm a part of called Earth Regenerators, which we're doing some stuff over there too. But that's not as like in terms of for my income type things that I'm working on. So that's what I'm working on. And I would say the overall challenge I have with all of those is figuring out my schedule, staying focused on, because they're all in the stage of emergence where it's like, you know, I have 3 other people that I'm working with on each of them. So it's like, there are things I can go and plow through on and do, but they're all just sort of like needing some time to emerge. And with that comes the trouble, obviously, of like this conundrum of, well, I need to make sure that I have income, which I have some supplementary stuff on the side I'm doing. But also like not wanting to force or rush anything, but also really needing to get really clear on each one of these things, and then setting up my schedule in a way where it's like helps me to stay on top of and stay motivated and energized by these things. Because I'm sure you guys have hit the walls at certain points, right? You got all this energy and then all of a sudden something comes up and then you just feel, you know, kind of demotivated in a way, but you just got to keep powering through it. So yeah, I'm curious what stuff that you guys have to get.
I think that's a great question, and something as an entrepreneur we all suffer from, especially if you have the hard problem of the creator's dilemma, where as soon as you get into a new project and you're hitting this low, you start another new project to have that creative high, right? I think we could all get into that mode. And then we get so overwhelmed with all the things around us that we either have to drop it all and focus in on one, or we have to reevaluate our time and effort. And so I think there's a few different things there that come up in this conversation quite often. Like one is runway. How do we allow ourselves enough runway to get our entrepreneurial venture running in early stages, right? When we're in that test and validation mode. And so that's one part of the question, I think. And then one is like self-management. How do I manage my freaking self as I'm going through this, right? Does anybody have anything they want to share here in regards to those? I know I have my things that I can share, but I know there's some interest in understanding here.
How clear are you on your tasks versus your partner's tasks?
Good question. Not very clear.
Yeah, that's there's an open opportunity, right? E-Myth. Who's read the E-Myth?
No,
The what?
It's too big.
No one's read the E-Myth? Okay.
I have the
Summaries
book.
on
I've
YouTube
been
are
meaning
better.
to read it.
Summaries on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Summaries on YouTube. It's actually a really quick read too. I think I have it in an Audible version. And so I just 2 times it, and I think I get done with it. Like every now and then I'll re-listen to it, and it's like maybe I get done with it within a week. So if you want to get that, go listen to it. It's actually a really good read. But one of the pieces in there is this challenge that we come in with our businesses, where we think that by having a partner, that for whatever reason we just give everything over to that partner and everything's okay, right? Or you have that one employee that you hire, that you say, I'm gonna hire an accountant, and that accountant becomes like the accountant plus all the other hats in the business, right? And the challenge that happens is we give away our business and the knowledge and understanding to that person, and become completely reliant on that person. But if we are proactive in it, it's what are our roles, defining what those are, and being really good at documenting what's happening, and how we're doing things, so that I know that I have all these different tasks. What can I not handle right now? Do I need to have just a small, sometimes it's cheaper actually just to hire a, what do you call those people that,
VA.
a VA, a virtual assistant, right? Than to actually manage, and I've really only hired one VA in my life, and it was specifically for a very mundane task that I could really schedule out and document well, and they could do that job really, really well. But it took a lot of freaking time for me, right? And it was actually outreach, right? And I can get that done efficiently. And all I had to do was spend time looking at a couple things a week, and it saved me time, it saved me money, and it actually brought in more clients, right? So maybe that's something there. But if you're documenting, your partner knows exactly what he's doing, he's documenting, and you guys understand the roles, you can honestly be able to evaluate where your time goes and how you actually use that time, right? That's helpful to you.
Yeah, that is very helpful. And it's it's interesting because one of the main partners of mine, so I'll give you some background on the makeup of these. So the sustainability and impact consulting firm is with 4 people. I'm one of 4. All of us have side income basically that we are able to help float ourselves. But me and the principal, I would say he's like the founder because he had the idea more or less for it. He brought us together. We're probably more needing to rely, like we need this thing to work more than the other two, just because of our situations and because especially him, like this being like his baby more or less, is like he really wants to make this thing happen. The thing with him is he's like a creative, he's sort of like a creative type. He always describes himself as a 9 on the Enneagram, but basically the whole like organization and like documenting things and like following up in way, like I will have to pull events out of him basically, or like times and dates. Whereas, you know, somebody like me is a little bit more like just because I have it ingrained in me now of like providing like the necessary details, like documenting stuff. So yeah, that'll be a little bit of a challenge, but I think it'll explaining to him why we need to document things will be really helpful, because it's like, I need to know what you're doing so that we can figure out how to best offload tasks to each other into the whole group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ray, you actually interviewed the author but never read the book?
Yep.
That's fun.
Because I get the E-Myth and I grew up with it during my multi-level marketing days and all that. It's all about systems, procedures, and automation and so forth. So the principles are sliced and diced into a million other business books that have come from the E-Myth. And what I found really interesting about Michael was that he built a business in his 90s. I think he went through some kind of lawsuit and broke off with a partner. Says a bit about, you know, business and the risk and all that. But he then built another book in his 90s called Beyond the E-Myth, and that resilience to kind of bounce back in your 90s was quite interesting, and that's why I had him on the podcast, and it was part of a bit of a JV with someone else during that time. But my point there is, like, you don't necessarily have to go and read a book. Like a 20-minute summary on YouTube is going to fast track and whet your appetite, whether you want to invest the time to listen to like a 15-hour book, even on double speed, it's like 7 hours or something like that. It's a very thick book. And the other thing about that book there is it uses a lot of diagrams and so forth, what I found. So without the visual aid, it's a little bit of a boring read, in my opinion.
You can get the visual aids downloaded.
Yeah.
On the.
But when you walk in and listening to something, the visual aids are pretty crap. But I think watching it on YouTube and seeing someone else's take on it and also modernizing it and saying, like, I ran a marketing agency and I followed the E-Myth principles and I did this, this, and this. It's just more relative to 2021 than listening to a book from however long ago it was. So yeah, I really enjoyed that interview. We got up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, we're half asleep. That was my old podcast, Razor Sharp Show, which is all about businesses and marketing and so forth. But I think, like, I've got this dilemma as well. I get, you know, the reason why I'm doing an NFT project right now is because I'm like, oh, you know, I need to find something else that like scratches that itch, and I get in FOMO of like what's happening. But I guess, like, from your like, I'm always very conscious about when setting up businesses that if you speak too much about the percentages of who owns what, you're basically arguing about, you know, 13% or 42% of $0. And so you could have 100% of zero and you're on zero, and you can have 10% of zero and you're on zero. So what, like, the input and output doesn't necessarily mean a lot either. Like, taking the time to break down tasks and say, well, I'm doing all the marketing and it can really be a waste of effort and energy. I think, like, throw mud, see what sticks, like follow more what Gary Vee does in regards to kind of like just execute. And some of those things will kind of solve themselves later. If there's a trust circle between the 4 people or the partners, that's probably more important than dotting I's and crossing T's. This is just my like lean startup point of it. Because I've not launched businesses in the past because everyone's just talking about spilt milk that doesn't make any, you know, you're actually doing disservice to the community by not getting out there and executing, because you're worrying about whether someone should have 13% and someone should have 16% and what that all kind of means on paper. And you might execute for 6 months and everyone hates the business idea and it doesn't get any traction. So you've spent 4 months planning and putting a nice kind of document together, that just kind of is pointless. I think it's more important to have a milestone and say, once we get to like 500,000 turnover or 200,000 or 100,000, you mentioned a number before, then we execute this discussion. So there's a roadmap or a plan of execution that validation executes the time to make that decision. You know, and I don't know, I guess it's kind of like raising a baby in a family. You know, do you divorce and you go, well, I want 70% because I was at home with the kid more. Like there's sometimes, like, I treat businesses as kids, you know, they're a child of yours. And so does it really matter that you combed the child's hair more every morning, so you should have more custody and things like that? Like that all means nothing when it comes to the decision making of who should get what slice of that pie. So I'm keen to, you know, link it back to the start of the conversation of understanding that slicing the pie analogy, because I see a lot of people get stuck in this. And also, you know, building in mechanisms where that slicing is scalable. And so it's not fixed, because you can also have, you know, the dilemma in the track where it's like, oh, well, I've only got 10% in this project, but I've got this other project over here that's now giving me 30%. So my energy is going more over there because I feel like the return on effort can be higher. You know, creating situations where you might then be changing, or different business partners will be changing their priority because of the amount of skin in the game, can actually do disservice to the project. You know, so I'm always a big believer of equal parts make the whole. You know, your 4 ways, 25%, you're either in or you're out, and then, you know, go from there, because you want equal parts skin in the game, from my opinion. You know, that's just my 2 cents on that topic.
No, that's great. That's great stuff. I mean, that's what we're doing right now, and probably what we'll continue doing. We have there's something to it, right? There's actually something, if you talk about, you know, we're not just talking about entrepreneurship. Like, this is regenerative, you know, the regenerative frame on it. And I think there's something really important actually about having it be an open and honest conversation around that, you know, equal parts. In a way, for us, it made sense to do equal parts because it bound us in a covenant, more or less, where it's like, I know I'm going to be spending more time than others because I have more time to spend on this. But the goal is that we're going to work this up so that they can all jump ship essentially full time into what we're doing. And that builds a, you know, a covenant type relationship between us. That is, you know, we're holding something special together. And it's like, if we decide, well, we're not going to do that anymore, then we're not going to do that anymore. But it doesn't lock us into something that's like legally sort of binding, right? And creates all this like mess of like, it's almost like we're just agreeing to be with each other and committing to this relationship in a way until, you know, we decide not to. And that is what builds the trust. But I really like those points. And
there's 1.5 million ways that you can go about it. And it's really just, it comes down to a lot of times that kind of guts and validating and testing and getting it wrong sometimes. I would tell you that I did the 50-50 with my last business. And I probably, I did the 50-50 and I improperly set up slicing pie. Like, we didn't finish setting up slicing pie. And it actually kind of ruined the business. And on both sides, it just fell flat, right?
Why?
What's that?
Why?
Okay, so we can go into it. So it's actually kind of a sensitive topic too.
Well, it's just top level thing. I just want to make sure, like, what's the difference if it was 30-70 or 45-55? Like, what's the difference?
The reason why it struggled with this particular partnership, we became really good friends in this venture. We weren't friends before, right? We had met through friends of friends, and he brought a certain skill set. I brought a certain skill set, and we agreed that 50-50 to start off was going to be the right amount. And then we'll see, you know, where the chips lie as we start moving forward. And we said, we'll play around with this slicing pie idea because it was kind of new to our understanding, and just keep track of our hours, see how much each of us is spending. Well, when it came down to it, at the end of this what happened was one of us didn't want to fully dive into the business. I had spent 3 years prior, well, 2.5 years prior, building out the business, building out relationships, getting some of those first original sales. And then I brought him in as a partner and we said 50-50 from that moment, right? And he had a really good cushy job and it was working in maybe this resonates with you as well. And the good cushy job actually made it hard for him to dive more fully into the business. Where I'm working like, oh, I'm feeling the stress, I'm sure you are, PJ, you're feeling that stress. And as I'm feeling the stress of full-time into this business, he's wanting the half cut on something and the split in that way. And I said at some point, you either have to commit or there has to be some type of different type of relationship in this, right? And so he went full into the business. And then when we were both feast and famine, he got really scarcity mindset on it, right? And what then happened is we have these two full-time entrepreneurs, and we have someone that's really scarcity mindset, and I don't know how I'm going to survive, blah 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 blah, and it hasn't been in that position before as an entrepreneur. This kind of first time as a full-time entrepreneur. There was a lot of stress, and it strained our relationship. And what it came down to is he decided that he had a strong vision, started applying it. We started to become two people working on the same business, but going in two different directions, right? Because he got really stressed out and said, wanted to take the reins and say, this is how we're doing it. And now I have control, so I feel better about things, right? And I was essentially the one that had the mainstay of that type of relationship. So there was a little bit of, we had to figure out our relationship and role. So that was like the first hurdle that we did in this. And so,
can I just make a comment on that?
Well, give me just 1 second. So
okay,
that first hurdle, actually, we try to work that out through trying to figure out our positions and roles. As him as me as the integrator within the business at this point, we kind of talked about that, and him as the visionary now, right? And to divide that out. What really came down to it is at the very end, why we split is because we were both visionaries, right? And we were we really realized that. But if we would have figured that out a little bit earlier, and started to define some of our roles, and really, we probably would have found the right person to integrate for the business, rather than me falling out of the business and trying to work on seeds of Dow, because I felt like that was going to be more where I wanted to head at this point, because I couldn't run that visionary side or that visionary passion of what I was creating. But then when we were splitting, I was supposed to stay in the business for a little while, and I had the 50-50 split equity, and then it became a divorce, right? And what happens there, right? And so eventually the business had a really slow death. It's actually still technically in existence, and there is business coming through it, but it definitely isn't operating and on the trajectory that it was before, and it pretty much killed it because of that 50-50 that we decided originally, as well as some of the other misunderstandings that we had on a relationship basis. Sorry, Ray, what do you have to say on that one?
I'm just observing the original. It seems like you were tracking the 50-50 on input rather than output. It's how much time am I committing to this project, and you might as well just have a salary and a job in that situation, because it's time-based. And this is what causes a lot of business problems, is because initially they go into it and say, well, I'm going to be this person and I'm going to do this one, and it's going to be 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week. And we start talking about the input as the reward. We need to talk about the business goals and say, we want to get the business to here, and that's like, we will do whatever it takes to get it here, whether you're going to come along the ride or not. It could be that someone sits on the sideline of like Steve Jobs got kicked out of the company and then brought back. Like, like sometimes Elon Musk took over Tesla and now claims it as his own. Like, he was not the original founders. Like, sometimes it's more about sitting on the sidelines, and 2 years later, there's that $1 million idea that is the net worth. And that's output driven thinking rather than input. I just feel like talking about how much time you're devoting to a project or bums on seats, it's not really the way to put an agreement together for a business slicing of the pie, in my opinion, and what I've been able to observe. And that will cause divorces like what you've just explained, because it's about time on the seat or time in a business. And I don't work with people like that, because it's like, I might sit on the sideline and then have the $1 million idea. Does that mean I get full ownership of that $1 million idea because it was my thought, even though it took me 6 months down the project timeline to come up with that idea? I don't buy into that time. If I want it to be built by my time, I just go get a full-time job. So that's how I look at it. I'm not trying to be, and I think in hindsight, and I've been there, done that in the past. That's why I come from experience. I've done many different partnerships. And most times I just go, you know what, better off just doing it on my own and partnering with other contractors to do really good work for themselves. And we just work together. But, with Farming Secrets, if there's a partnership, with this NFT project that I'm putting together, there's a partnership. But there's never like how many hours a day or a week are you put into this project. It's more about, the output. What's the first NFT project that we're going to launch? What money would that NFT project create for the customer experience, not time on seats? Because I could write a script. I'm very good at business automating. I don't want to work harder. I want to work smarter. So if I automate a business to work on autopilot, should I be disadvantaged because now I'm spending 3 hours a week on a business instead of 30 because I know how to automate it? I don't think so. Because without my automation, you've got zero output. So why am I disadvantaged? Because I'm not sitting on a seat, but I've solved a problem that completely automates and 10x as a business. Anyway, that's just my thought on this matter.
That just becomes really, really hard for.
That's right. Business is hard.
But it becomes really, really hard because if you think that your value is more than, because like you said in the beginning, we don't really know what that value is. We don't really know until it's actually happened and that we're making it. And so and that was actually a problem. Austin is a very amazing creative, right? He's won awards for his videography and stuff. And so he felt like his contribution was way more than anything than it actually was. And so his value, my job was actually sales. It was sales and marketing. And without me, the business went under, right? And it was supposed to carry through, but he thought that his value, because it was his essentially a lot of his idea went into it, and it was his child essentially, right? And so because he thought it was like, this is my amazing idea, the amazing idea was nothing until the work that was actually the sweat equity into it, right? And so the only way that so I think we're almost on direct opposition sides on this stance, which is really interesting because you and I, Ray, are usually pretty close on the conversation. But
we are close. Just looking at the coin from the other side.
Yeah, no,
you're calling it a 6 and I'm calling it a 9.
yeah, but it's really interesting because I think the only way that you can really understand, especially early stage, is being able to actually create the momentum. And the momentum is sweat equity. It's not the idea. It's not the cool, it is value, but the only way that we're able to track that value and understand it is by actually getting to work and getting done. So it is in some ways butts and seats, but it's also, you can't delineate, this person's work from the other person's work until after, and it's together that's valued. Yep. It's not to get, it's not valued.
I get that.
Yeah.
But what happens if I come on my seat for 1 hour and introduce you to Gary Vee, and then that makes $4 billion? Does that mean that my 1 hour in the seat is only worth 1% of the business because you're putting 99 hours that week?
No, it means that you got there before that the business got going before. It's like Facebook and whatchamacallit being cut out of, we don't even know if that story is it's not entirely true. But if you look at the whole Facebook, the social network story, that typical story. When people get cut out of those businesses early stage, it's usually some cutthroat nastiness that's that the seed ventures, because they think that, you know, someone doesn't someone's dispensable within that business model, but in reality they put the time, the effort to get something, and you don't know if it's going to be that person or it's going to be this person or it's going to be this person over there. You really don't on a startup. It's all a guessing game. And so to really make it truly equitable, it's it's luck essentially, right? And we do that together. That just means that because you brought that conversation to, it doesn't mean that you are worth more. It means that we all get paid quicker, right? And so we just get to the end game quicker, right? It doesn't mean that Ray's so amazingly cool and awesome, you know, even though you are. It's a matter of humility and pride, right? That we're talking about here within the business. And if our egos get in the way, which it usually does, you know, we actually lose out, and we don't have the partnership that we want. We don't have the business we want in the end because we let our egos get involved in it, right? Yeah, I bring this, I bring that, you know, but defining your roles will help you not to step on your toes, each other's toes, and get and create fights in that sense. It's like, I did that same darn thing and you're still doing that work too, right? And why are we both doing the same thing in this business? Like, I might as well not even exist. I've run into that in partnerships, right? Where you feel, especially early partnerships, like you don't really know who's doing what. And I've been working on this project and someone thought that they needed to work on that project too. We weren't really communicating. What the heck are we doing? You know, that we basically did the work in two different ways, and someone thinks that their work is better than the others, essentially, right? And so what do you do now? That happens, right? This is all part of it. I don't know if the PJ, if this is relating to your original question at all, but it's definitely resonating with some past pain bodies of mine.
No, this is, I think this is part of the good work, part of the relating of stories and telling stories to help others. I mean, I feel like I learn best when I hear, especially the stories of failure, or like what didn't happen. There's big lessons in that. So thank you for your vulnerability and for telling that. It is very helpful.
Thanks. Well, we all have stuff to learn from our mistakes, and hopefully that helps others, right? Not to make the same, or not to have that same type of pain. So we have time for like a really small challenge, like, or we can spend a little bit more time unpacking what we're taking away this week. I think maybe let's do that latter. Let's spend some time unpacking what we're taking away. I'll start here. Ooh, you know what? Is anybody an Eckhart Tolle fan? Right? Okay. So the concept of the pain body, right? I'm just noticing that there was some stuff there that came up in that conversation that I need to release a little bit better. And you know what? I've released it like 100 million times, but you know, there's still something there, and I probably still have to do that work. So that's something that's I'm gonna have to think about for the coming week. Is what negative thoughts and feelings and emotions am I collecting there and not releasing, so that I can be more present in my work right now, right? Because that's the past. I don't need to keep that in my life. And so that's what I'm taking away in this moment. I will popcorn it over to Michelle.
It's interesting that this conversation about value that came up, because I just these 2 workshops on regenerative leadership that I did this week, I am newly partnered with 2 people, and we haven't really negotiated what that's going to look like going into the future. So this helped me think about, I want process the idea around that I think Ray mentioned where, or maybe it was you, around like, let's get to a certain point and then let's evaluate, but until we get to that point, it's kind of fruitless. So I'm going to think about that question of value. And also I was going to throw in for a second there, if any of you that were talking about partners had female partners, because we tend to devalue ourselves a little bit more. So I'm going to be thinking about the whole idea around value this week. And I'll pass it over to Tommy.
I'm still trying to think what I would say. Yeah. Taken away from this is I had it, but I was trying to think more though. I'm a deep thinker. I like to keep on reflecting. I probably should pass it and then come back to me.
That's perfect. Go ahead and popcorn it to someone.
Ray.
Thanks. Takeaway from me is I think one of the things is sounds a bit weird, but even remembering about like the E-Myth and remembering that I had a podcast, like I totally forget this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes I just need to look in my own backyard for the solutions because I tend to forget that sometimes I've created value and content that other people find helpful. And one of our most downloaded podcasts is my failed stories and the stuff that is like messed up when I've run businesses on that podcast series. And I still pay each month to host that because I feel like it's a gift that keeps on giving. And that's kind of a reminder of that. And, even I know I was being a bit cheeky with Josh about the input and all that, but even there's times in my life where, the advice I'm giving is what I need to be listening. And it's very timely, this conversation, because I am in the process of partnering with someone for this NFT project. And, we've gone 50-50 and we haven't really spoken about who's doing what and how many hours. And as much as there's a bit of a tongue in cheek in regards to that, sometimes that discussion is really needed. So there is no assumptions, getting clarity around that. So it's a bit about being on the edge of both sides of it. And Josh's story kind of reminded me of some of the things that maybe I need to be a bit more attentive to as well. But I always like to play devil's advocate as well and just poke the bear from the other side and be a bit cheeky because it's healthy friendship conversation. And we need more of that in this censorship bloody world that we live in, the ability to have opposing thoughts and still be friends after it. So I'll see you next Friday as well, Josh. I'm not leaving or going anywhere because we don't agree on one little thing. I'll bounce over to Corey. Thanks.
There's been other things too, but yeah.
So you just pass it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure I heard you right. I got two things. One is the diversity of everybody's challenges. It just always blows me away every one of these meetings. The second thing is what Ray said. I've never heard before. Output-based output. Focus on the output in a business relationship. I've never heard of that before. I'm gonna think about that a lot. Anyway, who's next? Is it Carrie? Carrie, have you gone? You haven't gone. You look frozen to me.
I have not.
Okay, well, past you.
Thank you. I think that I liked what Michelle said about women tending to devalue ourselves. And, when Ray said, mine does sometimes, and I was just thinking, you know what? And I think a lot of times women let other people have the reins because we're trained, that's what we're supposed to do. And so I just think that's just kind of like a different take on that perspective. And it just kind of makes me think about, my motivations and, how far along I fall on that spectrum. So it's just interesting to explore that from a cultural perspective. And also, I think that was my takeaways. That was pretty neat. Let's see who else is here. Is there anybody else who hasn't gone? let's see.
PJ?
I think. is
PJ and
it
Tommy.
PJ, yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy said he wanted to wait.
All right, I'll pass it to Tommy after. I don't know if my phone's about to die and the service is very minimal right now, but my takeaways for this week for me are to really just lay out the tasks that we have to do within each of what I'm working on, and get everyone together and say, what are you working on? What am I working on? And it's a validation actually of what we have been knowing we've been needing to do, which is really to define roles and really get into as well, like what are we passionate about with what we're doing, very specifically, you know, task wise, and yeah, really just defining those roles. So that's what I'm taking away this week. And then Tommy.
I was thinking about it. My takeaway is just connecting with passionate movement builders, basically. Just connecting with the people who are passionate about what they're doing, and leveraging that to do what I'm passionate about. And then staying clear on what needs to be done for the present week, you know, so I can get easily overwhelmed trying to do everything, feeling like all at once. So always staying clear. That was a good thing.
Right on. That's some really good feedback there. There's one thing that kind of came to my mind just kind of after PJ on this topic as well, is like, as it might even just be a communication thing. So like a daily stand-up or a weekly stand-up, or, you know, every other day stand-up where you're talking, but then you're also documenting. So you have someone scribing what's going on, right? So-and-so did this, so-and-so did this. So you can feel the patterns and recognize it. And, you know, playing on that permaculture principle of the use and value, the edges. Well, no, that's the wrong one. Oh gosh, what was the one that I was thinking of?
Observing the patterns.
Observing pattern, or use and value the oh no, it's patterns. What's the patterns one? Anyways, it's the observing and interacting, but it's also patterns, right? And seeing those patterns, like it could just be like for a straight month, you guys do stand-ups, right? Stand up in the morning, everybody gets their energy out, and you say what you worked on yesterday, what you plan on working today, what challenges you're running into, right? And then everybody shares that, and then you have a scribe that's going through that, and then you come back a month later and you say, oh, here's what you worked on, here's what you accomplished, here's what you struggled with, and then you maybe have that open conversation of like, oh, you know, it seems like you guys are working on this, seems like I'm working on this. Let's see if we can more solidify, you know, our objectives and goals, and kind of move from there, right?
Yeah, the looking back and reflecting on it, especially, I think we need to do, because we do have a bit of those, you know, stand-up stuff, but we need to like go back and look to observe the pattern. So that's super helpful, and I'll probably institute that right away.
And before you get disconnected, PJ, also build in these standing meetings, like what is working. It's also good to talk about the challenges, but we sometimes focus more on the negatives. It's like, what are the wins? So yeah, what is working is always a nice thing to end on, rather than, yeah. And to Corey's point as well with the output, you know, I always just think about the employee situation. If you want to reflect on this as well, there are a lot of people who have full-time jobs sitting in a seat for 8 hours. They're probably spending 3 hours on Facebook, a couple of hours at the water cooler having chit chat, going out for lunch. They're probably really doing 3 hours worth of productive work. Imagine if everyone just worked for output driven, and you just got really good kind of change makers to come in there and do the output and then leave and go home and have quality of life, rather than sitting on a chair because someone says you need to work from 9 to 5. That's the difference between input and output. Come in, do your client work, go home, enjoy life. You know, yeah, 4-day work weeks, you know, flexible working hours. I think COVID has shed some really big light on this as well, where people who have always had this mindset of like, I need my staff in an office so I can trust them and see them, all of a sudden have been forced to work from home and going, shit, we're actually running the same amount of volume, and now we don't need an office, you know, and people get to do their laundry while they're on a Zoom call, you know,
Yep.
output.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
No worries, awesome. Good chat. Thanks, guys and girls and everyone. And
See you guys next week, right? Keep on growing, guys. You guys are doing great.
thanks, Josh. Cheers.
Bye.
Yeah.